All right, choosing the right modifier. You got to admit that there's sort of a mystery to lighting. And the mystery is sort of complicated or exaggerated by the fact that we have so many options when it comes to modifiers. When I started out in lighting, I hate to tell you, but it was probably about 35 years ago, there was a few options. We had umbrellas. I think that it was really the early 80s when the first softboxes came around, okay? But we've got softboxes, we've got beauty dishes, octaboxes, these huge umbrellas. I mean, there's so many options. The question is, what's the right option? I think that if we want to take the mystery out of lighting, we have to understand how light works. The first thing we have to understand is that you can take a mathematical equation and figure out, you know, lighting in, I guess, on a textbook. And I hate that because I'm lousy at math, but there's some really simple ways to understand lighting and how it works. The number one rule, I hate to say rule because I don't like rules because we always like to break rules, but the number one principle of lighting is this: the bigger your source, that is your modifier, the bigger your source in relationship to your subject, that's the distance and how far your modifier is from your subject, the softer or the harsher the light. Once you understand that, it's actually pretty easy. So let me explain. So let's say I have a small box. This is a Westcott, 18 by 24-ish, somewhere around there. And this is a fairly small modifier. So if I put this, let's say 2 to 3 feet from a subject, and let's say I get a pretty good light. I say, I like this light, it's kind of soft. And I take and I then back it up. So I take an exposure, preview it, I back this up. As I back this away from my subject, my light's going to get harsher. As I move it in toward my subject, it's going to get softer. So the most important thing I have to determine as an artist, as a creative process, is what do I like? Is it working toward the goal that I have established, or that maybe I'm kind of experimenting and I have a model in front of me. I don't know where I'll end up, but as I'm shooting, I go, it's too harsh. I can move it in. It's too soft. I move it back. Now, the modifier, let's say I get it in to where I really like the softness, but it's too close. It's all of a sudden, it's in my frame. What's my option? Well, is I can take a bigger modifier here, and instead of it being 3 feet away from the subject, if I put this, say, 5 feet or so from my subject, it's going to give me the same quality of light as a smaller modifier, say at 2 feet or 3 feet. Same quality of light. The difference is that as the light is backed up, its angle of spread increases. So that's good and bad. A lot of the athletes that I photograph, especially in my earlier, say 2-3 years ago, I used a beauty dish in really tight. And so the light would fall off and have a gradual tapering, darkening effect on my subject. It was a natural process. And so I love that, where the beauty dish was overhead, or even a small box like that, and then it tapers down, and the feet almost are pure black in the frame. Now, if I'm photographing for a shoe company, and they want to profile the feet and the shoes, then I would probably choose a modifier that's going to be able to throw a wider angle of light, and so therefore it's lit from the head to the toe. So I have to make the decisions. Do I want just the face lit, or do I want the whole body lit? Am I shooting a wide-angle lens? If I'm shooting a wide-angle lens, then I can't have a modifier in very close because it shows up, unless I'm compositing, I can take it out later. But I make my choice of modifiers based on how harsh and how soft I want, how much room I have in the set. If I have an athlete jumping through the air, I can't have my modifiers too close, so I back them up, I get bigger modifiers. So really, here's a simple way of understanding how two modifiers will work in conjunction with each other, achieving the same quality of light. So let's do this. I'm going to flip this one over, and I'm going to set this up. And usually what I do is I have a subject, let's say this little stand here that's got the beauty dish on there is my subject. If I take this small rectangular modifier and have a person standing there, and I take and I back this up until this circumference area right here fits exactly to the circumference or the dimensions of this box, I can then say, let's say my subject there, then I can say that at about this point, this box will create the exact same quality of light at, say, 3 feet as this box will at, say, 6 or 7 feet. Same exact quality of light. Two different modifiers, but because one's bigger, it is further away, but it creates the same quality of light. Now, this will cast a bigger angle of view, or a spread of light. So that's critical. Now, that also comes to play when I'm shooting on a white sweep or a gray sweep. The bigger my modifier is in my set, the more light it's going to cast onto my background. So I choose a modifier a lot of times, especially my overhead light, is how much do I want that background to be, pure white or light gray. I can change the value of my background without ever even moving my subject, but by just changing my modifier because it's casting more light on the background. So a lot of times what I'll do is I'll put up a small beauty dish and I'll shoot a picture and I go, oh, beautiful light, except my background's really dark. It's too dark. So I just pop on a 5-foot octo, back it up about 5 feet or so, shoot the same picture. My quality on the face is exactly the same, but now I have more light on my background, so I have a very smooth light gray on my background. So that's really the simplest way of looking at how modifiers work. Now, the other question I get all the time is, what's the difference between an octabox and, say, a rectangular box or a square box? Well, actually, in terms of quality of light, there is no difference. The only advantage is, or there's two advantages, is when you're working with a model and you say you want a nice reflection in the eye, typically, and this is traditionally, the overhead light is a rounded type modifier. So in the early, say, 60s, they used umbrellas. The fashion photographers used umbrellas, and that reflection of the umbrella picked up in the eye. And it became sort of a standard in the industry to have a round catch light in the eye. And a beauty dish obviously does that too. However, if you only have say, a square or a rectangular modifier, it works perfectly fine as an overhead light. It's just going to give you a reflected rectangular catch light. The other thing too is, and again, we're not talking about product, or if I'm photographing a car or a motorcycle that's got lots of reflections, if you use a rectangular box, you're going to have a little bit more of a pleasing reflection if it's a rectangular than a circle type modifier. So, but again, quality of light is not determined by the shape of the modifier. Quality of light is determined by the size in relationship to your subject.